I've also got the note taker on as well, so you'll get a transcript of this.
Right. Dr. Omnia, all good with the audio?
Yes, I
Yes,
have
I
headset.
But there appears to be a little bit of echo from your side.
I think now it's better.
Yes, it is. Okay.
I think we can start now.
Yes, I think we can start now, Martin. We're good to start. So it's recorded, right, Martin?
It's been recorded and there was a note taker working as well.
Perfect. Perfect. So good evening from Malaysia. I'm Dr. Delwinder from the School of Education of GlobalNxt University. So on behalf of the School of Education, I would like to warmly welcome all of you to today's forum on autism acceptance. Now, autism acceptance, definitely not my forte, and definitely not my area of expertise, but we know that it is important because it goes beyond simply being aware of autism. So it's about understanding, respecting, and valuing individuals for who they are, rather than expecting them to fit into a fixed norm. So just this morning, I was reading the newspaper and I was just seeing how parents, especially in Malaysia, have started to accept. Um, Basically, have become more open to accepting this and have also uh yeah, so this is where we move towards acceptance, and we are actually creating environments where individuals on the autism spectrum disorder, ASD, feel included, supported, empowered. So today we are privileged to hear from experts across different parts of the world, across early childhood, across education and adult support, who will share their insights and how we can build a more inclusive society. Let me now introduce our distinguished panelists. First, we have with us Dr. Omnia Al-Katani, a scholar, educator, and author specializing in early childhood development and special education. She holds a PhD in special and gifted education from United Arab Emirates University and is currently a lecturer at the National Academy for Childhood Development. Dr. Al-Katani is deeply committed to advancing educational quality through evidence-based approaches in early assessment and intervention. Beyond academia, she's also an accomplished children's author with works such as Feeling Blue and I Like to Sing, reflecting her passion for nurturing emotional awareness and positive behavior in young learners. Her research explores autism within cultural contexts, particularly in the Gulf region, contributing to more culturally responsive education. Thank you for being here with us, Dr. Omnia. Next up, we have Shaji Rajamoni, Raj, who serves as the National Autism Lead at Voyage Care, the United Kingdom. He oversees autism practices across more than 500 adult residential services in England and Scotland. Raj works closely with autistic adults and supports them in applying strengths-based approaches in daily care, focusing on communication, sensory needs, and emotional well-being. He's also part of the National Autistic Society's Autism Accreditation National Experts Panel and leads initiatives such as the the Neurodivergent Hub. His work bridges practice and research, collaborating with the Sheffield Autism Center to better understand the lived experiences of autistic adults. Thank you for being here with us, Raj. Happy to have you.
Good morning. Thank you.
And finally, we have Dr. Nazima Idris from Malaysia, a dedicated special education teacher with over 16 years of experience supporting students with diverse learning needs, including autism. She holds a PhD in special education from the University Pendidikan Sultan Idris, Malaysia. Dr. Nazima currently serves in a secondary school focusing on inclusive and vocational education. She has contributed to the development of practical teaching materials and interventions, including cognitive-based programs for low-functioning learners. Her work is grounded in real classroom experience with a strong emphasis on improving students' daily functioning, behavior, and independence. Thank you, Dr. Nazima, and thank you again to all our panelists for being here today. So let's begin our discussions today. First, my question to all our panelists today: what do you mean, or in your understanding, briefly, if you could explain what autism acceptance generally mean to each one of you, based on whatever you're doing in your field? So if you could start with Raj.
Hello, good morning from UK. Good evening, Kuala Lumpur, and good afternoon, UAE, and all other parts of the world. We are in a world where we somewhat acknowledge autism, and we are moving towards appreciating autism. So to me, it's more about focusing on the strength of the people, knowing that how do you focus on the strengths of the people rather than looking into what people cannot do. We mainly focus on triadic impairments to see what people actually cannot do, but it's all about knowing the strength of the people and working on the strengths. More focus on accepting autism. Autism is a part of that individual. Autism is the identity of the person. You cannot separate autism from an autistic person. You're autistic or you're not autistic. You cannot say that every person has some kind of autism. That theory doesn't work. Either you're autistic or you're not autistic. So we appreciate and accept the person as an autistic person. That's what we do in adult services.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you. Perhaps Dr. Omnia, if you could go next, sharing what autism acceptance mean to you.
Thank you. Welcome from Abu Dhabi in United Arab Emirates. Autism acceptance goes beyond awareness. And it's not only at the Autism Acceptance Month. I believe it should be at everyday practices. It's about recognizing autism as a natural variation in human neurodevelopment, not as something to be fixed. I think it means creating environments at home, in school, and in the whole society where autistic children feels supported, respected, and to thrive as they are. And acceptance shows, as I said before, in everyday practices through adapting the teaching methods, through honoring these children's sensory needs, through valuing different ways of communicating and thinking and feeling. And not just as expert, I'm actually a mother of a child with autism, so Autism Acceptance Month is very important to me personally.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Nazima, what does autism acceptance mean to you?
Thanks, Dr. Delvin. From my perspective, autism acceptance is not just about awareness, it's about action. It means we stop asking autistic individuals to change who they are, and instead we adapt our environment, our teaching, and our expectation to support them. In my classroom, acceptance looked like giving clear instructions, allowing repetition, using structured activities, and celebrating small progress. It's about dignity, patience, and seeing their potential, not just their challenges.
Dr. Nazima, perhaps since we are talking about classroom and you are a teacher in a secondary school, right? So I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
want to find out, as a teacher, what challenges do teachers usually face in the classroom?
Okay, thank you for the questions. I think it's important to first understand the context of our education system in Malaysia. In government schools, we have a different setting for students with special needs. Some attend special education school and some are in integrated programs that we call PPKI within mainstream schools. I'm currently teaching in PPKI setting at the secondary level, so my experience comes from working very closely with this student in a real classroom environment every day. If we look at the data as of January 2026, there are about 154,000 students with special educational needs registered under the Ministry of Education. Around 82% of them are in PPKI program. So this really show that some of these students are actually supported within PPKI classroom, and it highlights how important the role of PPKI teachers is. But at the same time, it also means that the classroom itself becomes quite complex. One of the biggest challenges is the wide range of abilities within one class. You can have students who are minimally verbal, some with autism, some with Down syndrome, some with loneliness, and some who are more independent, all in the same classroom. So as a teacher, you are not just teaching one level, you are managing different levels at the same time. Sometimes within one lesson, we are actually running different levels of activities simultaneously. This requires careful planning, but also flexibility during the lesson itself. And even then, what works for one student may not work for another, and what works today may not work tomorrow. So teachers are always adapting in real time. Another challenge in communication. Okay, not all students understand verbal instruction in the same way. Some students process language very slowly. Some rely more on visual information, and some may not respond to verbal instruction at all. So, as teachers, we need to adjust how we deliver instructions. We simplify language, use visual support, demonstrate tasks, and break instruction into smaller, manageable steps. This may sound simple, but in practice, it requires a lot of repetition, patience, and consistency. Because for some students, understanding one instruction can take multiple attempts, and we need to guide them step by step until they are able to do it independently. We are also face behavioral and sensory challenges. Many students are very sensitive to their environment. Small things like a noise level, sudden change in routine, or even moving from one activity to another can be overwhelming. When a student feels overwhelmed, it affects not just their behavior, but also their ability to focus and participate in learning. So, in the classroom, we are not only teaching academic content, we are also consistently managing the learning environment. We need to ensure that the environment is structured, predictable, and supportive so that students feel safe enough to engage. This means teachers are always observing, anticipating triggers, and adjusting the environment accordingly. Maybe I can share one real example from my classroom. I have a student with autism who is nonverbal and still needs support for basic self-care like toilet training. So, in this situation, my role as a teacher goes beyond academics. I need to be very observant of his behavior. If he becomes restless or start withdraw, that is usually his way of communicating that something is not right. At that moment, teaching has to pause and support comes first. We guide him using simple visual cues, follow a consistent routine, and gradually help him build independence. Progress may be very slow, but over time, these small steps like recognizing a routine or responding to a cue are actually very meaningful achievement. So this shows that teaching in special education is really about supporting the whole child, not just academically, but also in terms of daily living skills, confidence, and dignity. At the same time, we also face structural challenges within the PPKI system. With the increasing numbers of students, classroom can be quite crowded, while space, facilities, and sometimes manpower are still limited. So in one classroom, a teacher may be managing multiple categories of students with a very different needs. This makes it more challenging to provide individual attention, even though we know how important that is for these students. The physical classroom environment can also be a challenge, especially when students require space, structure, and low stimulation environment to learn effectively. So teachers often have to be creative in how they manage the space and organize activities. In an integrated setting in like PPKI, another layer of challenge is inclusion. We want our students to be part of the school community, to interact, to participate.
Dr. Nadsima, you're muted. I think you got muted.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, I think that I continue. I just talking about the in the setting like PPKI, I'm teaching at the PPKI, and another layer of challenges is inclusion. We want our
Dr.
students.
Nadsima, I just wanted to find out what does PPKI stand for?
PPKI in Malaysia is an integration program. That's a program that our program is joining for with the aliran what we call that normal classes in the normal school.
So
Mainstream.
yeah, it's basically
Mainstream.
okay.
Yeah, so we are a half of the a part of that school that we call a program. PPKI means in Malay, Program Pendidikan Khas Integrasi, integrated program for
Integrated.
special education.
All right. So this would
Yeah.
include students like one of the
Yes.
challenges you mentioned was including special children from with different special needs like Down
Yes, yeah, there
syndrome
are
and so on.
multiple types of disability that they have to combine in one classroom.
Mm,
So
okay.
in Malaysia, most of the students in the government school, they are joining this program. About 82% of the student.
Okay.
So that are very challenge for the teacher because they have to be flexible to being able to adapt to the teaching method for the expectation and the response have to respond for according to the student. Then it can be demanding, but at the same time, it's very meaningful because of the student, even small progress actually, like they can follow the instruction, waiting for a short time or becoming more independent is actually a very big achievement. And moving forward, continued support in terms of resources, classroom environment, and teacher support system will really help the teacher to support the student more effectively. For as conclusion, I can say that in special education, we don't just teach a subject, we teach life skills, and every small step forward really matters.
Thank you, Dr. Nansima. That does sound very challenging. I mean, given the fact that there are so many students with different disabilities in one classroom, so
Yeah,
managing
we cannot focus only for the autism only
autistic.
because we have to
Yeah,
cater so many disabilities.
right. Okay. So moving on, my question is for Dr. Omnia. Dr. Omnia, since you are currently a lecturer at the National Academy of Childhood Development, I think in the UAE, right? So Dr. Nazima is teaching in the secondary school. So perhaps from you, we just want to understand what are some early signs parents or teachers should look out for?
Thank you. This is a very important question. Early signs can appear in different ways, but some common indicators include limited eye contacts. This is a very important one, or reduced social engagement compared to peers. So you notice these children have limited eye contacts. They don't look at you at your eyes. When you're pointing, they don't point at things when they want to talk about it, and they don't follow your finger when you're pointing at things. Also, delayed speech or language development, or unusual communication patterns like echolalia. But it's important to mention here that not only delayed speech children are, it's not always a sign for being autistic, but it could be. Also, difficulty responding to their names or following social cues. They don't understand the social cues, they don't get it. The repetitive behaviors like hand flapping, something like that, or something like that. Lining up the toys. They like to line cars in a different way. They like to organize things in some matters. Also, the strong routine and the attached to the strong routine, and they sometimes get anger episodes if the routine has changed. The intense focus on specific interests, or focus in parts of objects or toys that is not what it meant to focus on. Sensory sensitivities over or under or reacting to sounds, lights, or textures. Some of them don't like feeling the sun. Some of them actually like that. Some of them doesn't like the bright light. Some of them the opposite. However, it's important to view these signs as signals to support, not labels. We usually focus in these points of behaviors and try to help and support these children to get over it, not to label them as autistic, or this is not the main idea of noticing these symptoms. And I like always to remind that early identification allows for early, meaningful intervention. And mentioning these symptoms doesn't mean that all autistic children have it, but actually autistic children are very different. They have sometimes the symptoms, but not even in the same level.
Thank you, Omnia. Okay, they always say that early detection is always good and all. So I was very impressed when I found out that Shaji Raj is basically working with autistic adults. So Shaji, I just want to understand if you could explain how, what kind of support autistic adults need in daily life. And I think another question I was just curious about, are there adults who only discover that they have these autistic symptoms or indications later in their life, like when they enter adulthood? So if you could explain this.
Good question. There are two parts to this question, so I'll address the first one first. So I have three hats actually. So I work as a practitioner supporting autistic individuals, and I'm also inspector checking residential services if they maintain standards or not. And I'm also a researcher finding new ways to understand autism. So with three hats, you see autism in different angles. Now let's try to understand autism a bit. Let's do an exercise now, if everybody's okay. So what I want everyone to think is they have a box of chocolates in front of them. Can you open the box in front of you, everyone, whoever is in this conference? This is an imaginary place. So open your box in front of you. You've got a lot of chocolates there. Do you have favorite chocolates in front of you? Choose one of them. And now close your eyes. Now try to reach the sweets with your hand. Reach the sweets, pick the right one, peel it, and now enjoy the sweet. Simple, isn't it? Now let's do it again. Let's do it with an autistic person. So if we ask an autistic person to imagine there is a box in front of them, 1,000 questions come into their mind. Is that box round? Is that box square? 1,000 questions. Even imagining a box in front of them can be difficult. Now, the next question is, think about a sweet you like. They have had 1,000 sweets in their life. Which one do I like now? That's the next question. So the anxiety builds up from there. The next is to pick the sweet with your eyes closed, which can be a difficult task. Pick that sweet, peel it, and taste it. All these processes can be anxiety building for these people. So it's about knowing the person, how we can understand. We need to also understand when an autistic person is processing one information, before they have processed that information, another information has been fed to them. So it just creates anxiety for the person. It just builds up, come to a situation where they cannot process anymore. That's when the meltdown happens. And mostly functioning autistic people, they try to mask these behaviors. That can be more problematic as well. So it's about knowing the person. The best people who can understand autism is the people who actually work closely with the people. We can be a big academician, we can be a big practitioner, but the parents, the people, the teachers, the support staff who work with autistic individuals understand autism better. Now, when we talk about support, it's all about creating a person-centered support around the person. It should be predictable, as the previous speaker mentioned. It should be respectful for the differences and build around their strengths, as I mentioned earlier. We are not trying to fix autism here. What we're trying to do is make the person's life more meaningful. How can we do that? We do through autism-informed practice. When we support people, what we tend to do is we focus on 4 areas: social communication, skills enabling, sensory sensitivities, and well-being. So how can we actually do support with social communication? Social communication is not communicating with the people who they actually know. It's about communicating with people who they actually don't know as well. This can actually cause a lot of confusion and anxiety for people. How can we manage that? How do we manage sensory sensitivities? Sensory sensitivity is not actually managing the extroception, the external senses. It's about knowing the inner senses as well, introceptions. So we all know that when we feel hungry, we eat. But what if you don't know what's happening inside our body, and we don't know what to do if something happens inside the body? We need to look into those things as well. We need to look at emotional well-being, how a person can be emotionally well. There is something called alexithymia, most people might know that, where in a situation where you cannot express your emotions, you feel sad, you feel happy, but you don't know how to express those things. There's a lot of things we need to understand when we support autistic individuals. Also, we need to make sure that we need to make reasonable adjustments around the person. You cannot change the person, as previous speakers mentioned. You cannot change the person. If you look at the 3 aspects, you know that the autistic person, the environment where they belong, and what they're trying to achieve. We cannot change the autistic person. We can change the environment. We can modify the task. So we should be focusing on environment and the task rather than focusing and try to bring an autistic person to be neurotypical, the social so-called norms. When we meet somebody, we actually say, hello, how are you? Do we actually mean to ask that, how are you? Do we mean to understand how the person's feelings are? But to an autistic person, if a question is posed to them, hello, how are you? They try to process that question thinking, am I all right? Is he asking the right question? So by the time they try to process and respond to a question, another question is thrown to them. So this is how the autistic world surrounds. That is how, in general, what happens. In our settings, in residential settings, what we tend to do is we have assessments. If we have a person coming into our settings, we do care needs assessment to understand their needs. We do an autism assessment, we do a sensory assessment, and an environmental assessment as well. All these factors contribute to a support guideline, which actually form the process and tool to support a person. The staff are enabled training, real-time training. We do real-time story exercises. Like when autistic people are fed with medication, how do you feel that if somebody, when you're sat in the chair, somebody come with this cup of yogurt, in a spoonful of yogurt and put it in your mouth, without saying to you that I'm going to feed you? How does that feel? So being dignified is also something we need to be doing with supporting autistic individuals. This is what normally we do when we support autistic individuals. We also look into outcomes. We make sure that we look into outcomes. The outcomes are working properly. If something is not working, we go back to see what's wrong. We need to check if the people understand the autistic individual, if they know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, what can be changed? This is how we support autistic individuals in the places we support. Now, going to the second question, there are a lot of people who have autism diagnosed in the later stages. They've been having their life without knowing they're autistic and trying to understand, why am I like this? Why I can't be like another person? When they get the autism diagnosed in the later stage, they understand this is why they do it, and they have a lot of relief knowing that this is my identity and I am autistic and I'm proud about it. Talking to autistic people, we know that 100% of autistic people say that I am proud to be autistic. And that is all about acceptance. That is all about appreciation. That's all about being autistic.
Ji. So, working with autistic adults, especially in residential care, so is it any different from working with, autistic children? I mean, from your perspective.
Autistic children grow up as autistic adults, so nothing changes unless they're not properly cared for, or the surroundings are built around according to the required needs. There is a transition from childhood to adulthood. We call it macro transition. When the transition happens, we try to ensure the consistent practices, what is being delivered during the childhood days, being carried forward to the adulthood services. If there is a gap in there, that is when all the problems happen. So mostly we get all the information from schools and parents, which help us to ensure that the people we support have a meaningful life.
Thank you. Thank you. That was definitely hearing from an adult, autistic adult's perspective is something different, because we always hear and learn about the children, basically identifying their signs, how we help children understand emotions better. So this is definitely a different viewpoint as well as perspective. Right. My next question, Dr. Nadsima, you did share some challenges teachers face in integrated classrooms and so on. But I just want to know, what are some simple strategies that would work well with managing behaviors, even as for parents, teachers? What are some simple strategies you could share?
Oh, okay. That's a very practical question, and I like to mention, as I mentioned earlier, our classroom is very diverse, so there are really no one strategy that works for all students. But from my experience, there are a few simple approaches that consistently help, especially in integrated special education program PPKI classroom. First, structure and routine. Many students, especially those with autism, feel more secure when they know what's going to happen next. So, something as simple as having a clear daily routine or using a visual schedule can really help reduce anxiety. When the environment is predictable, students feel safer, and when they feel safe, their behavior becomes easier to manage. In a way, we are not just organizing the classroom, we are helping them regulate themselves through structure. Second thing is keeping instructions simple and clear. Okay, instead of giving a long explanation, we break tasks into small steps and guide them gradually. This is what we call scaffolding, supporting students step by step using until they can do it independently. For example, instead of saying finish your work, we guide them step by step. Take your book and then write your name and then do question number one. This reduces confusion, especially for students who have difficulty processing information, and it helps them stay engaged in the task. Another important strategy is consistency. From a behavioral perspective, a student learn through repeated patterns. So when our responses are consistent, same instruction, same expectation, same reaction, they begin to understand what is expected of them. And this also applies in how we teach skills. For example, when I teach baking, for example, like making a sponge cake. I don't just teach it once and move on to the next topic. We repeat the same recipe again and again through hands-on practical until the student really master the technique. Sometimes, honestly, the teacher might feel like, oh, this sponge cake again. But for the student, that repetition is actually where the learning happens. So even if we feel a bit tired of the same recipe, we still repeat it because that's how they really understand and master the skill. But when our response change from day to day, it can create confusion. And when students are confused, that's when behavior issues may increase. So consistency gives them a sense of stability and helps them feel more in control of their environment. We also use positive reinforcement. This come from basic behavior theory. When behavior is followed by something positive, it is more likely to be repeated. So in the classroom, we focus on small success. Even something simple like waiting for a few seconds, following one instruction, or completing a small task, we acknowledge it. And a simple good job or a smile or even allowing them to do something they enjoy that can be very motivating. For our student, this small reinforcement can make a difference over time. At the same time, one key idea in special education is that behavior is communication actually, especially for students who are nonverbal. Behavior is often their way of expressing needs. So instead of reacting immediately or to the behavior, we try to understand what student is trying to tell us. Are they overwhelmed or are they confused or are they uncomfortable? For example, I have a student who become restless and withdraw when something is not right. So instead of correcting him immediately, I pause, observe, and support him. Maybe by adjusting the routine, using visual cues, or simply giving him time. And what I've seen is that when the student feel understood, their behavior actually reduce. So the focus shift from controlling behavior to understanding the child. And another simple but powerful strategy is giving students a sense of control. For example, you offering small choices like, do you want to start with this or with that? So overall, I will say that managing behavior is not only about controlling students, but about understanding how they learn, how they process information, and how they communicate. When we combine simple strategies like structure, giving them clear instructions, uh, consistency, positive reinforcement, and giving them some control, we can create an environment that is safe, predictable, and supportive. And when students feel safe, understood, and supported, their behavior usually improve naturally.
Thank you, Dr. Nazima. One point that you mentioned, I think, is something many people know, is that autistic children tend to feel overwhelmed. So that's why the consistency is important, the routine is important. So yeah, thank you for that. And I just want to ask my next question to Dr. Omnia. So Dr. Omnia, you're a lecturer, at the same time, you're also a children books author. So just wanted to know how literature or books, or even if you could suggest any simple activities to help children understand their emotions better or regulate the emotions better.
Great. Well, simple activities can make significant difference. And as Dr. Nazima said, consistency is very important with children with autism, because I would remind you here with their strong attachment to routine. So if I do the same thing, same activity again and again, it will become part of their routine and they will learn more and more. One of these simple activities that help them understand their emotions can be the emotion cards for faces. We have like cards with different face expressions like happy, sad, angry, frustrated. And I would name here one important strategy that is used with children with autism, especially nonverbal autistic children. That is PICS. That stands for Picture Exchange Communication System. And I use it personally with my son because he's nonverbal. So when they want something, they show me what they want, and I can use this with knowing and naming their emotions. For example, you're angry. I show him the picture. Are you angry now? And he can tell me the same, that he's angry by showing me the picture. The emotion cards for faces is very important strategy, and also the mirror play that can be used together with the previous strategy or even alone, that encourages recognition of the facial expression. So he saw his face and he knows that I look this way when I feel this way. So he recognized how his facial expression changes due to his feelings. Another strategy is the daily check-ins. Like we ask him every day, how do you feel today? I can use visuals, the cards, the mirror, the colors, anything. I keep asking him, how do you feel every day? And consistency is important here as well, because he will get used to think, how do he feel every day? The role play is also a very important strategy. Practicing everyday situations, sharing, waiting. For example, I know my child gets angry when he's waiting, so we practice that. I know you get angry when you wait, but we will do that, and I give him something instead. So also another strategy is the sensory-based calming tools. And these can be very tools. There is a variety of tools like Play-Doh, sands. We want him, for example, to get deep breath by what? By blowing bubbles, by playing, aiming to blow on balloons, things like that, to make him have this moment to get self-regulated before he feels frustrated or angry. So these activities build emotional vocabulary and create safe, predictable ways for children to express themselves.
Thank you for sharing. Sorry, I didn't get the acronym. PICS, did you say PICS? There was an acronym.
Yeah, PECS, Picture Exchange Communication System. It's like a book that have many pictures, and every like chapter of this book have pictures for specific thing. For example, pictures for the daily cleaning hygiene system, pictures for going out, and the child with autism, the nonverbal child, choose a picture that he wants to communicate with the caregiver and show him this picture to show that this is what I want, or this is how I feel. So it helps a lot of children actually, and we use it in many of rehabilitation centers.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Omnia. Thanks for sharing this emotional regulation strategies that will be helpful to a lot of people who are attending this session and who will be watching this recording later on. So Raj, my next question for you is that working with adults, autistic adults, what is one common misunderstanding people have about autism in adults?
There are a lot, but I don't want to start any controversies, because you know that there are a lot of controversies around autism going around the globe. But one thing, what I would say is, there is a saying which most of us say, neurotypical people say, that everyone has some bit of autism in everyone. But to an autistic community, that's an insult for them. Either you're autistic or you're not. We need to be very clear about this, that autism is part of an identity of an autistic person. We cannot say that everybody have bits and the bobs of autism. But also, it's also thought that autism is an illness. It's not, actually. It's a neuro development condition, and they think different. But that's it. And it's not a learning disability either. That's something we need to be very clear about. What we also need to understand is, some concepts say that autistic people lack empathy. Is that true? It's something which we need the people only who work with autistic individuals understand how autistic people feel and how they actually interact with the world, and about how autistic people are treated as geniuses. They're not. It's not right. They have their own way of thinking. They can be good in some areas. They can be good in different areas. But all these conceptions, I think, makes it difficult for practitioners who work with autistic individuals.
Okay. Raj, you were saying that this is not a disorder or disability. What is the right term to call this autism?
It's a neurological difference. It's a neurodiversity.
So
Every
it's just
brain,
a difference.
yeah, it is a difference. Every brain is different. No one person is the same. We are all have different brains. We function differently. Something else we should think about when we understand about autism is about intersectionality. Autistic person can be male, female, culture-wise different. So we need to look and understand the intersectionality as well. They can be gays, they can be lesbians. We need to understand the intersectionality of the person as well. So it's all about understanding autistic person as a person with all it comes for a neurotypical person as well.
Again, out of curiosity, with support and therapy, of course, does it get better over the years as they transition into adulthood? Do they get better at coping with this difference?
Yes, as Dr. Omnia was mentioning, if we have the right support, we have the consistent support, we use the right information, we use the right strategies, we use the right environment for the people with a continued, consistent approach, yes, we can improve practices around people, which makes the life meaningful for autistic individuals. When the consistency breaks, when everybody doesn't speak the same language, that's when the people get anxious, confused, and the world doesn't look the same for them. That's how the autistic world become difficult for an autistic individual.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Raj. Dr. Omnia, we are moving to the last round of this forum. So I just want to know how do storytelling, this was something I wanted to ask. You've written 2 books, so that must be awesome. I hope you will be able to share these books later on for purchase, or with a lot of people who may be interested to read these books in other parts of the world. But I just want to know how does literature help children with autism?
Well, storytelling is a powerful bridge between understanding and experience. Children can, through reading, through storytelling, to recognize emotions like the previous questions in characters. This character felt like this, and relate them to their own feelings. So they know, like, I felt like what this character feel, and he start to recognize that he can feel like others. We can build a sense of empathy here because he now will understand that others felt like him. Learning cause and effects is also a very important thing because in social situations, he will read and he will see in the story that when this is happen, the character felt this way. So he will understand the cause and effect that this cause this feeling and practice perspective taking in a safe and controlled way, and also build routine and predictability through repeated stories, which is also very important because we want to build routine. If I suffer from teaching my son something, I would read the story about doing these things again and again until he start to understand it. So social stories in particular are highly effective because if you remember, we talked about their difficulty to understand social cues. So the social stories help them to understand this and get it. They break down complex emotional and social experiences into clear, manageable steps so they could follow step by step and understand. Literature also allow children to revisit the same emotional scenario again and again, multiple times, which reinforces learning without pressure. So this is a very safe way to learn. To learn about their feelings, to learn about the social cues, to understand and build empathy between children with autism and connect it with the real world. You're muted, Dr. Dalwinder.
Sorry. I said thank you, Omnia, for sharing. I think being a child author and also working with autistic kids, and also at the same time being a mother to an autistic son, I think this gives you a lot of different experiences on emotional regulation, especially. So thank you for sharing how storytelling and literature, especially, and I hope you keep inspiring people around you with your writing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to Dr. Natsima. Dr. Natsima. So parents, so generally you work with people in Malaysia, but generally what advice would you give to parents, especially first-time parents who are just finding it difficult? So what can they do to support their children learning at home?
Yeah, actually, this is quite often I get the question from the parents, and from my experience working with a student in integrated program in Malaysia, I would say that what happened at home really makes a big difference, not just in learning, but also in behavior and independence. As mentioned earlier by Dr. Omnia, one of the best and the most helpful things parents can do is to build a simple and consistent routine at home. It doesn't have to be complicated. Even small routine like fixed times for eating, resting, or doing simple tasks can help children feel more secure. When the environment is predictable, the child is usually calmer and more ready to learn. Second thing is keep things simple. Parents don't have to teach like a teacher. Actually, they just use a short, clear instruction and break tasks into small steps. For example, instead of saying everything at once, like let's go and eat at the dining table in the kitchen, so we can break it down step by step. Like first, we can say that let's eat, and then go to the kitchen and sit at the table. So when we give one step at a time, it's much easier for for the child to understand and reduce stress for the child, and it helps them complete the task successfully. Another important part is encouragement. For our student, a small progress is a big achievement. So when they do something right, even something very simple, acknowledge it, smile, and say good job. And honestly, daily routines at home are already powerful learning opportunities. Things like getting dressed, keeping their belongings, or helping with simple tasks. These are all very important life skills, especially for our students. And overall, parents don't have to do something complex. What matters most is being consistent, patient, and understanding their child's need. That alone can make a very big difference. Before I end, I think I just like to remind all of us that we are talking about autism or special needs. We are not just talking about challenges. We are talking about individuals with potential, with strengths, and with their own unique way of learning. So, from my experience as a teacher in Malaysia, progress may not always look big or fast. Sometimes it's very small, like following one instruction or waiting for a few seconds, can complete a simple task. But for our students, these small steps are actually very meaningful achievements. So, I think what's important is how we see them. If we focus only on limitation, so we will miss their potential. But if we are patient, consistent, and willing to understand them, we can actually help them grow in ways that truly matters. And when we do that, we don't just change their future, we change the way a society understands them.
Right. Right, thank you. I think I'm again asking this out of curiosity. In Malaysia, you say you speak to parents, parents ask you these questions, how to manage. But since we're talking about autism acceptance, do parents have a hard time accepting that their children, their child is diagnosed with autism? Do they have a hard time accepting such diagnosis?
Yes, many parents do have a hard time at first, and they completely real and understandable. But because it's not because they don't love their children, but because they are adjusting their expectation, emotion, and understanding. So it may take times, but over time, with support and guidance, many parents grow. They begin to understand their child better and accept their strengths and challenges, and become stronger supporters for their child. Because acceptance is a process; it doesn't happen overnight. Yeah.
You're so right. Acceptance is a process that came out really well. So yeah, acceptance basically is a journey where it involves shifting expectations, I think managing, caregiving, overcoming. I think also at the same time, since I mean being in Asia, I think overcoming the societal stigma is also part of the acceptance. So Raj, my question for you is that how can caregivers provide better support and support communication with autistic individuals?
Okay, good question. I think it's good to hear that across the globe, we use visuals, PECs, and everywhere. The PECs communication system, which is really effective with an autistic elements. Now, I would like to ask another question to all the people who are watching this. Like, I would like you to imagine a tree, whichever tree you have seen in your life. I'm sure that everybody got a tree in their mind. Now, my next question is, how many people have thought about the roots? Have you actually thought when you visualize the tree that the trees have roots as well? One of the surveys mentioned is only about 80% of the people actually, 20% of the people actually thought about trees with roots as well when they visualize a tree. It comes to communication as well. You need to identify if as a tree, if the trunk, the branches, the leaves, the fruits are proper communication, the roots are the behaviors and the reasons why people don't communicate. So if you understand what are the reasons why people cannot communicate, it's easy for people to actually communicate. It's about trying to be proactive to understand a person's need and then actually work on it. And I was talking to one of my colleagues who is autistic, and she mentioned that while you're talking to me, my brain is like a jar with a lot of tubes coming in, and there is no control. So whenever you are talking, I can process all the information around me coming to me. So it's like a lot of colors coming into my head. It mixes all together. And if I don't have the time to process things, it just jumbles in my brain. So give me a break, give me time to understand these things. So neurotypical people, normal people, can actually stop what is not required. So if you move to a new place, whether it's a church bell going on, the first 2 3 days you'll be annoyed hearing the church bell, but after some time, as the days goes by, you will not hear that. But an autistic person will keep on hearing that bell all day, every day. That's why just because they can't stop all this information coming into their brain, there's something else called spiky profile. Some people might be good in one area, but they might not be good in different areas. So we do a lot of training to our staff to make sure that they understand the autistic people's needs. What we do is we do something called space theory. Space theory is about dividing the support into three areas. One is a physical space where they belong. Second is the processing space where they actually process communication. And third is the emotional space, how they actually get well-being through these areas. So we train our staff in different levels according to individual needs to ensure that they understand the physical space is important, where the physical distractors can cause anxiety building, which can impact communication, but also how the communication is delivered and received through caregivers and autistic people in a way that is interceptive and people understand what is being told there or communicated there. And again, going to the emotional space, is it actually functioning to that person? Is it working to that person? Is what's being told to these people are actually taken in context? We also look into intensive interaction, where if people are non-verbal, they can't talk. We use intensive interaction by touch and taps. So the communication is delivered. We use sign language as well. So there are a lot of training we actually provide to our staff members to make sure that we provide the right communication. There was a survey which actually showed that communication between autistic people are much better when it's compared to communication between autistic individuals and neurotic individuals. So the staff are trained to understand, take time, take a step back, and provide the right communication for autistic people. That's what we do in our essential sessions.
Thank you. Thank you, Raj. And everyone, we have reached the end of today's session. Now, as a host of today's wonderful forum, I think the main important thing is that we're reminded that autism acceptance is not just about understanding differences. It's about embracing them, creating spaces, and helping these individuals where they feel valued, included in this society. So from early childhood, we heard a lot from Dr. Omnia, Dr. Nadzima, sharing a lot about childhood, students, but also to adulthood based on whatever shared by Raj. So the insights shared today highlight the importance of support, consistency, communication. I think these were some important terms that I think we used again. We heard again and again: support, empathy, and of course practical actions in shaping much more inclusive environments. So before we conclude, I'm very pleased to share that the School of Education in GlobalNxt University will soon be introducing the Bachelor of Early Childhood Education through an ODL delivery. So this initiative actually reflects our commitment, the university's commitment in preparing educators around the globe who are not only knowledgeable, but also equipped with the skills and compassion that is needed to support diverse learners, including children on the autism spectrum. So we hope that this program that we envision to launch in the mid of this year will contribute towards building a new generation of educators, early childhood educators, who will champion inclusion, acceptance, and of course, quality early childhood education. I would like to extend our sincere appreciation to our esteemed panelists today, Dr. Omnia from the UAE, Shaji Raj from the UK, Dr. Natzima from Malaysia, for sharing their valuable knowledge and experiences with us today. Thank you so much for sharing your Saturday with us. And also to our audience, thank you for your time. Do follow us on our LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. We are consistently sharing more forums and webinars that are held across schools, and also updates about our new programs on our social media platforms. So thank you everyone for your time, for your
Thank you.
attention.
Thank
And
you.
Very much.
if you do have questions, you may follow our panelists on their LinkedIn. They're also there on LinkedIn. So you can reach out to them to understand their work better, and also to ask questions if there are any. So let us continue this journey towards a more inclusive and accepting society. Thank you. Have a good day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Terima
Thank you,
kasih.
everyone.
Jumpa
Terima
lagi.
kasih. Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.